let us see like what is definition of ready in our part 2 of agile process management. So in definition of ready, we have to see the following things. Like first of all, we need to know like that the user story is clear or not. That is, the user story is understandable or not. Based on it only, we could able to develop the software, and the user story should be testable. Like we need to test the user story, like it cannot be like test not non-testable. The user should story should be testable, and it should be feasible to develop, and it should be well defined, like everybody should understand the user story. And the user story should have the acceptance criteria, like what is the output expected from the user story, that should be well defined. And any dependencies, like the user story has any dependencies, like any modules, any dependencies, that should be identified. Like any software tools needed to develop the software, like what are the software needed tools needed, that should be identified. And if there anything is not there, we need to identify the dependencies, and then we have to implement it. And like we need to size the user story, like what is the size of the story, like how long, what is what we say is like estimation, like user story should be estimated within how many times we can deliver the user story as a software. And this is mostly sized by development team, and this also include like testing team also sometimes involved, because they are also part of like developing the software and testing it, like they also take some time. So sizing is done by both the teams, like development and testing team. And scrum team accepts user experience artifacts, like already some users have like worked on this like user story, like for example the same user story may be in existence. Like for example, when we go for a shopping cart, like we have already have many websites having shopping carts. So based on the user experience, scrum team will accept that user experience artifacts. And performance criteria, what are the performance criteria, like how the application should perform, like that kind of thing is identified, and that should be parallel aligned with the user story. And scalability also defined, like how what is the usage of this like particular user story, like where and all we can use that is the scalability criteria. And security, like what are the defined securities we need to do to the particular user story. And we need to identify who will do this, like who will develop this user story and who will test the user story, that person should be identified. And the team should complete team should be able to demo the user story. They should have the complete understanding of the user story. In previous slide, we saw what is definition of ready. Now we are going to see what is definition of done. In definition of done, what are the things covered that we'll be seeing now? Like code produce, all to do items in code completed. Like what are the things which we done in user story, that code is completely completed. That is, the software is completely developed. And like sometimes the code will be commented, checked in, and run against current version in source control. The codes may be commented, certain codes may be commented, like certain codes may be checked in like for execution, and certain codes may be we have to run with the existing version in source control. So that is also considered as definition of done, because why the code is getting commented means that code is not necessary for current software release. And so we need to run against current version. Then we have to check whether that software is running proper or not. Next, peer review, like whenever we complete, like junior like coder, he codes the like and develops the software, and a peer should review like whether the code is performing very good or not. Unless and until the code is performing, it is not considered as done actually. So that is a part of definition of done. And even we need to check whether it's meeting development standards or not. And the build should happen, like we code everything, and we make it as a build, like executable file. And it should that executable file should be without errors. So that we need to check. Unless until this build is not ready, it is not considered as definition of done, that software is not completely done actually. And we need to write unit test should be written and passed. Like developers, they used to test the software, like whatever they produce, they do a unit testing first. They write a unit testing, and then all the tests, like they execute these unit test cases, and then they try to pass it. Unless and until these unit test cases are written and passed, there is no definition of done. That is, the software is not, it could not be released and deployed it to a system test environment and pass the system. Like it should also pass like the testing activity, like it should also pass testing activity, like what are the, like based on acceptance criteria, the tester should test the user stories, and then only it is considered as definition of done. And it should also pass user acceptance testing. Like we may have this user as a client or client and users, so they should also use this software, and they should also test whether the software is working as per the expected acceptance criteria or not. And uh, the any build, like development or configuration changes, like suppose I'm in a particular build version, like for example, say I'm having a release version of build of 1.0, or some development or some configuration I'm making with the like code, like I configure from QA to dev environment, something which I'm making, that should be documented in every phase. So that should be also implemented and documented and communicated to everyone. So suppose in case in future, if any changes are implemented based on the configuration or build, so they can implement it easily from the understanding of the documents. And this is also a part of definition of done. What are the things you done related to the coding, like setting up of environment configurations, that should be also like documented, communicated, and implemented. So that in that way only it stands as definition of done. And this should be updated, like relevant documentations or diagrams should be produced or updated. Like anything new which you develop or anything which you configure, the diagrams, all the things which are produced new or which are existing already with the existing framework of the software, that should be updated. And this is also part of definition of done. And like the task could be set to close. Actually, the user story should be completed, totally completed. There should not be any lag. Then only it is considered as definition of done. Otherwise, it is set to like it is taken into next sprint. It is not considered as definition of done. So we cannot go for release, or we may take it to next sprint. Now we will see what are the developers tasks. The developers reviews the stories and add tasks and subtasks. For example, we have a story for uh, downloading the ticket of a train ticket. So there is a story, and he adds task. What are the tasks you need to do for a development, and subtask it will be added by the development. And setting up dev environment. He makes all the tools necessary for developing the software ready on his system, and estimate the story, like what is the like story points he can give, like what is the estimation he can give on the story. The development task is like that. So he has to estimate the story, like within how many days he can complete, what is the size of the story, like it is a big story or small story. That type of estimation is done by the developer. And he designs the story, like designs the story in the sense like high level and low level design architect will be done by from the development. And coding, like based on the design of the story, coding will be done. And after coding, a peer level review or superior will review the code of a junior developer. And then unit testing. In what is unit testing is like, if a developer developed a particular feature like sign on feature, and it is that sign on feature as a unit testing. And integration testing is like integrating all the features or modules and testing it. Like when we have a sign on page, that is like a separate module. Then we integrate sign on with different features of the different modules of the software, like we have financial module, something like HR module, everything. So all these modules are integrated and tested, all the features are integrated and tested. And fixing bugs, like if a testing team raises any bugs, so that bugs will be fixed by the development team. Then we will see all the QA tasks in the Scrum, that is Agile process management. Like the QA will review the story, like as in development they will review the story, like while parallelly the development team also review the story. So in this Agile project management, we see that like development and QA, they both work parallel, that is they both work concurrent. In the first side we saw, right? So that's what. So they will also get the story, and based on the story, reviewing the story, they write test case parallelly, they'll do along with development. They create test scenarios, they create test data, and they review all these things like test case, test scenarios, and it is reviewed by a peer or supervisor. Next they prepare the like development team, they develop like a test development environment, like tools necessary for test environment. Everything will be developed by the testing team, and execute test cases, they execute the test cases, like whatever they are written, they execute test scenarios, everything. And if they find any bugs, they report, and they follow up with the developer and close the bug. Like after reporting, they follow up with the development team to fix the issue, and then they close the bug, and they demo the user story.